Some of you have asked, hey, Two Bros, why aren't you modding airplanes anymore? Sorry, can't hear you over the sound of these 13x4 props on a twin timber.
Check it out, YouTube. We've got the twin timber from E-flite, but with a couple twists. You might notice these propellers are friggin' massive. Well, Ron's 45 on our Discord server, and you should totally join it if you guys want to get some more awesome airplane info and some ideas for mods that you might want to do. Recommend it going with a 13x4 standard prop and pusher prop on the right engine. Holy crap, does that make a big difference. Just like the standard turbo timber, one of the best mods that you can do to it if you want a little bit more thrust and more efficiency is run a 2-blade prop, but this in the same exact prop, except this one's a pusher, so it's a 13x4 on both sides. These are APC props. We'll put the links in the description for you guys if you want them. Super easy mod. It's a complete drag and drop. All you gotta do is pop the original stuff off, take the spinner off because it won't fit on here. Toss the, what do you call it? The prop just drops right onto the prop adapter. You don't have to ream it or anything, which, because reaming APC props can be a real pain, trust me on that one. Both of these sides pop right in. You have to do nothing else except send it and fly. It actually works really well with the stock equipment. So we're gonna go ahead and also show you that we're running with full span ailerons again, because now we have enough power to do some limited rolling Harriers. Last time we flew it was with a Crow setup, but it flies pretty good with the full span setup now. So I'm gonna put it on the ground. I'm gonna get the screen recorder running, get as much data on screen for you guys as we can, and then we're gonna go ahead and send it. All right, so I got it on 3200 Spektrum Smart Pack, shoved as far back on the snoot as I can get it. It's working pretty well so far. We're gonna go ahead and use snap flaps to take right off. As you guys saw in the setup guide, snap flaps are when I pull the elevator and the flaps drop. It's an elevator to flap mix. Super easy to do. Works in both directions, although it works best going down. Here we go. Look at the power you get in this thing. I do not recommend doing differential thrust with this setup. It is very difficult to control. When you give it rudder, it'll kind of go in any direction it wants. But now you can hover it super easy, man. Look at this. It's almost EC 1500 level. Look at how good this is. And it punches right out of it. Full snap roll, man. This thing is insane. Good gosh, there's so much power. And it flies straight as an arrow too. You can also use the Harrier flap mix that I showed you guys before in the setup guide. Whoop, so much power we can actually push out of it. There we go. You gotta be very careful with this. I'm usually like quarter to half throttle, pulsing it a little bit to get it to slow down but not push the nose up too much to go into a hover, because it'll go right into a hover with how much thrust those 13x5s produce. Again, these are stock motors, and it has no problem doing this at all. We flew by the camera earlier, and it was like rock solid, but that was on a half-dead pack, so I gotta be a little careful with how I'm flying it, because the throttle range on a new pack is a little bit more sensitive than a pack where it's not as new. Going away from my wife. Isn't that insanely cool or what, man? This thing is so well engineered. I'm also using less flap right now too. I shortened the flap by half so I could get the plane to stop bouncing as much. Yeah, as I say that, I bounce a whole bunch, right? The last time I flew it, it didn't bounce much at all. So let me go ahead and turn it around again and just show you guys. I think too much flap is kind of your enemy when you're trying to get nice precision looking landings. Whoa. Man, I'm really just messing up all over the place. I'm gonna go ahead and try that again. We all make mistakes. I'm literally in the sun. I never fly directly in the sun, so I feel like my brain is being cooked right now. It's part of what, that's my excuse. I'm sticking with it. All right, now that we're thinking clearly, we got some thrust holding a stabilized approach this time around. We're gonna add some thrust right before we touch down to keep it from bouncing. Got some wind coming in to help out a little bit. There we go. It's doing a one wheel on its own from the turbulence. Does invert it pretty well too. And honestly, you can actually go right out of invert it with it too, which is funny. Like, watch this. See how easily it flips out of it? The thrust that it's got is just so off the chain good. Now, I did mention rolling Harriers. They're a little weird looking, but you can do them. Albeit, again, very strange looking. Not what you would expect out of a normal rolling Harrier with any plane. If that's not your thing, don't worry. You know, you don't have to fly the way I do if you like flying your own way. I just like seeing what they can do. A little bit extra wind coming in. When you got the throttle setting just right, you can almost drive the plane on the front wheels on a wheel landing. The issue with rudder still kind of not survives, but still persists, that you cannot make this plane do a proper knife edge at low speed like the turbo timber can, because it's just so heavy. But I mean, good luck getting a turbo timber to do that. It does not have the thrust required. So to get that level of thrust, usually you gotta have to do a, what do you call it? You gotta do some kind of thrust mod, like either changing engines out, or in this case, just changing the propellers out to get that level of thrust. But that also adds weight, which, you know, kind of causes issues. And crosswind. I'm waiting for the wings to rip off, but I know that the wings are actually carrying the weight, so it's nothing's really gonna happen to it. Let's try to get it into a Harrier, coming past, right past my face. And this wind actually feels really good, even if it is kind of turbulent. Come on, baby, stabilize, turn right, turn right. There we go. Doing Harriers and wind is interesting. Come on, baby, stabilize. Less elevator might help, there we go. Get away from those propellers. Now this is still a pretty beginner's friendly plane. Even though you can kind of throw it around and have fun with it. It's more thrusty now, we've got more power, more punch, even with the lower pack right now. 14.7 volts under load, so you still got plenty of power to work with. All the same characteristics from the twin timber still apply, just the props are a little bit bigger, so you might strike them if you're not careful. But if you flip it over, you'll probably be fine. Just like you would be with a normal timber. It still lands in grass great, although if the grass is kind of not mowed, you're gonna be in more of an issue. You might end up flipping it maybe. You gotta hold the elevator when you're in grass. Nothing to really worry about too much. Come on, baby, get in. Crosswind. Bring that wind up. All right, so how many minutes of flight did we get? We got roughly, what was it? 5 minutes of flight on a 3200 pack. Not too heavy, not too light, just about right for this kind of wind that we're in. Flew pretty good. We're gonna toss another one and take it right back up and see if we can push it even more and have some more fun with it. All right, so what you guys heard me talking about with grass earlier, we're gonna taxi it. See how I'm holding full back elevator? If I don't do that, the plane does run the risk of nosing over. So you gotta be careful when you're doing that. Just kind of hold the elevator back to plant the tail in the ground so it gets the weight off the front of the wheels. Let's do a relatively scale takeoff over this crappy grass on the runway. Whoa! Did the tail wheel come off?
Sounds like something.
Yeah, the tail wheel kind of came off. That's what that scrapey sound was. Let me go ahead and fix that real quick. No, the wheel's still there, but the tire came loose is what ended up happening. So, oh yeah, that wheel is beat up to hell and back. If I put it back on all the way, it might work. There we go. Oh, that's getting torn apart. Can you zoom in on that? It's all beat up. With tail pressure comes some tendency to do that. So, you know, wheel gets kind of too much pressure on it. There we go. Now that's just a regular pop-top style maneuver. Like you can just do that by going up and pressing down and right down elevator, full throttle, and I think it's right rudder at the same time as try it again. Sticks to the top end. Yeah, it's actually pretty easy to do a pop-top with this plane. Other planes, it takes a little bit more effort to pull off, but you can use it to go real fast like this. Man, these foam planes take so much abuse. Like my balsa katana over there can do it just fine. But the fact that you can do this with a foam plane and have it survive is just so cool. Using snap flaps to shorten the, what do you call it? Shorten the pitch, the loop. That's the word I'm looking for. Sticks to the top left that time around. Of course, when you do sticks to the bottom right, you get these insane triple snap rolls that are just like so ridiculously good. Let's see if we can line it up correctly. Get ourselves a good little, God, the wind is really kind of messing with me. Here we go. Turn her around. You guys show you some of the agility we have here to turn in tight spaces. Use some rudder, a little bit of throttle. It's a heavy plane. Don't even let me try to convince you that it's not.
7 minutes.
I'm trying to get it lined up with the runway, and every time I do, the wind gusts in a certain way, and then it just starts getting really squirrely. Not uncontrollable, but just weird. Okay, here we go. Stabilize that approach. Look at it, that's all turbulence right there. Okay, straighten it out. I could have used more rudder on that one for sure. I don't want you guys thinking I'm like a perfect pilot by any stretch. Sometimes I wonder what direction is what, and then I screw it up. So let's line that up again, see if we can get it in the way I'm trying to. I'm gonna stand next to the runway so I never put my wife in danger, because if it starts coming at me, it's gonna come at her. All right, line her up. Left is left, right is right. Starts crosswinding on me. Yeah, that was terrible. That's okay. You don't have to be perfect to have fun, you know? Sometimes it's just about going up and throwing it up into a quick pop top that I screwed up because my fingers slipped. There we go. Using some right rudder to throw it around. Of course, when people watch me do this and then screw everything else up, they're like, you're just a stick smasher. And I'm like, you know what? It's a fun hobby, and sometimes stick smashing is what it's all about. I want to see some of you guys come out here if you think my landings suck and land better than me. Not that it's a competition or anything. We're always able to learn from our mistakes, right? Maybe I can get a better landing this time around without trying to force a one wheel. Boink. So the 13x4 prop mod, man, it really wakes this plane up. It gives it the thrust that I felt that it was really lacking before. Not that it was bad, it's just, you know, on the underpowered side where like I couldn't throttle out of a hover. But now I can. So I'm having fun with it. I do like having enough thrust where I don't have to like add extra weight to the airframe, because this is already a heavy plane. So if I'm gonna go throw bigger motors into it like my friend Ron's 45 on Discord does, what you end up getting is, yeah, a plane that flies, but the characteristics change significantly when you add so much wing loading. The plane will stall at any given airspeed a bit easier than it would otherwise. I'm on, baby. Telling you, when you fly in wind, it changes everything. You would think it'd be easier to land sometimes, but it's not. Let's see if it will crankshaft or at least spiral. No, it goes into an inverted flat spin instantly. That is the one thing this plane does not do even really well, even with differential thrust. And we were trying to do it with differential earlier. It'll flat spin, but it won't flatten. It'll just kind of spin down. That's about as good as you can get. All right. Running low on power, so we should probably get ready to land it soon. Again, I don't really need to review this plane. We already gave you the review on it. I think it's a pretty solid plane for somebody who wants to learn how to fly a twin, but doesn't want to have to deal with all the issues that come with that. And as far as tail draggers go, it's a pretty good model to fly, right? So it doesn't have a whole lot of P factor. Again, like, you know, even in the wind, if I wasn't trying to goose it around, like if I just come back and do another, wait, what happened here? One of my flaps is loose. What the heck is that all about? So I'm here giving a lecture on how good this plane is, and something screws up. What happened here? Oh, all that craziness that I did, it actually made the flap servo unglue. So if you are gonna go ahead and do some of these crazy maneuvers, see me moving the servo around inside of it, where my fingers are, that actually came unglued. Not a big deal, okay? These Twinber servos, what they end up using are it's like a little triangle bracket that holds them in place. This is kind of normal and expected for a foam plane. Sometimes this stuff happens if it's not designed for the heavy aerobatic loads that I'm giving it. Sometimes this stuff will happen to it. It's a super easy fix. All you have to do is come in here and cut this, and then pop that little piece right off. It's like a little plastic cover, and then you pull the servo's loose right now, so I can pull the whole thing out. Just have to hit it with foam tack, let it sit for like about a day, come back and fly it, it'll be rock solid like it never even happened. So I'm not even gonna let this bother me, because the way I'm flying this, those snap rolls, I guarantee some of those were at least 8 Gs. This plane was not designed to handle that kind of load. So the fact that it came down with that being a problem, it did not crash or have any issues, is kind of testament to how well Horizon's had their manufacturers build these models. Because other planes I've seen, when those things happen, you might end up losing them. So again, you know, I don't need to give you guys a score. You've already heard my thoughts before, and while I was flying it, I like the way this plane flies. It is heavy, it's a little different. I've heard some people, you know, complain about it, but you know what? What you enjoy, what you like to fly should be the final determining factor in what you end up purchasing. Don't ever let anybody influence you on that. Aside from, you know, me, of course, because I know what I'm talking about. I like to think anyway. But no, for real, for those of you guys who, you know, you hear negativity about a certain plane, maybe if you can get a chance to try it out with a friend or something like that, or you can see some people really push what it can do, then you can decide for yourself, is this for me or is it not? Because, you know, if it flies, it's an airplane and you can probably have fun with it. It just depends on the level of fun that you can have, determining what you can do with it. So for this one, definitely a must-have for beginners who want to get into twins. It's very forgiving. Yes, it is heavy. Yes, it does have some weird flight characteristics, but none of that is something you can't overcome and learn with and grow. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the B-roll and see you guys again soon.
This is why we don't recommend differential thrust if you're planning to hover. It interferes with yaw control and makes the plane much less stable while hovering. Leave it enabled if you prefer the yaw control in the air, but we'd recommend otherwise removing it if you plan to do limited 3D with the Twinber. It does some of the sickest snap rolls we've ever seen with full span ailerons. Follow our setup guide linked in the top right. The back end of the vid covers how to set this up easily. And it even does better Harriers than it did before, again using our setup guide. The upward scheduled flaps create a super stable Harrier with almost no wing rock. It's absurd to look at. Show off to your friends and be the cool kid on the block, making a timber do things it wasn't supposed to. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys again next upload.